That's irresponsible, and it weakens Canada. This is on Justin Trudeau. We can say what we want about Danielle Smith and whether she should have signed it or not. It was irresponsible to have a statement that everybody didn't agree with, as we are just days away from Donald Trump imposing these tariffs, and now we've exposed a wound that he can exploit. Stupid, irresponsible statecraft by Justin Trudeau.
Wasn't that exposed?
I'll just say it. What the actual F is going on right now? The propaganda is in full force. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. We're going to jump right into it. We're talking Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland's announcement, Justin Trudeau clearly losing his gosh darn mind. Melanie Joly has done the dumbest thing ever on American television. And boy, oh boy, I've got a lot of thoughts on all of these things. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment your thoughts down below, and give me a follow on other social media platforms as well. Let's get into this.
What's being set up is clearly a race that the party's going to have to decide. Do they want somebody that has been a part of the Trudeau government, that obviously has a skill set, that obviously has the capability to govern? They've been doing it for a while. They obviously know a lot of Liberals and have been sort of fighting the good fight, if you will. Or do you want an outsider? So it just feels like they've already decided, or it feels like it's starting to coalesce which outsider is going to remain standing in the finals. And I think we're probably going to start to see a candidate or two in the sort of other camp that they have been a part of the Trudeau government, and that will be the decision point essentially for the party.
The Liberal Party, I've said this for years, they prey on stupid, weak Canadians. So this positioning that Mark Carney's an outsider works very well for people who are completely unfamiliar with all of his political engagements. However, yeah, you're kind of stupid if you don't do the research, because he has severe ties to the Liberal Party. He was a key speaker at the 2021 National Liberal Convention. He supports all of Justin Trudeau's climate policies, even though now apparently he's saying that he's not going to be in support of the carbon tax.
Now, so far, carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low, in the single digits on average globally, well short of the estimated $80 to $100 a ton needed by the end of this decade to keep us on track to net zero.
And he has also been deeply a part of all of the Liberal policy discussions, especially everything around climate change and the economy, which makes his attempt at preying on idiots that much more laughable. Also, he is such an unbelievable elitist.
We can't redistribute what we don't have. And we can't support the vulnerable in our society or defend this great country if we have a weak economy. And I'm here to build the strongest economy for all Canadians.
But yeah, sure, you want to say you're an outsider to try to avoid accountability for everything that the Liberals have done under your guidance, Mr. Carney? Good luck.
Lisa, I love your facial expression as Brian was describing Mark Carney as an outsider. Conservatives would not classify Mr. Carney as an outsider at all, is my guess, right, Lisa?
Listen, let me just say that he's as much an outsider as I am an outsider. This guy's been the Trudeau whisperer since 2020. And before that, he's been in his ear on COVID. He was part of Building Back Better. He chairs an economic task force. I think they wanted to replace both Morneau and Chrystia Freeland with them. As we'd say in Cape Breton, butter wouldn't melt in this guy's mouth. He is not an outsider. It's a valiant effort to claim that he is one in order to paint a different narrative. But the proof is in the pudding. And don't equate just the fact that you don't have a high public profile to the ordinary Canadian voter as being an outsider, because people are going to see right through that.
The ocean of Mark Carney runs so deep. It is so corrupt, so evil, so hypocritical. It's unbelievable the information you can find from him from a quick Google search. And so many people will say, oh, well, though Harper did praise him during 2008 when we were facing that economic crisis that did hit the USA far harder than it hit Canada. Sure, 17 years ago, he may have done some things that were beneficial. He then went on to pursue a career with the Bank of England, where he had dozens of scandals involving misuse of taxpayer money to fund things like Christmas parties, to fund things like jet setting around the globe for non-official business. He is just like Justin Trudeau. Actually, he's not just like Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is like the Timu Wish version of Mark Carney. Mark Carney is a particular type of lizard person that we should not even be giving the time time of day. The fact that he is in this election at all just sparks so many red flags, and red flags that the Trudeau government has been sharing with us for years about how much they wanted Mark Carney to be involved in Canadian politics. And why would they want a man who hasn't done business in the country in over 10 years, who holds 3 passports, to be the leader of our country? Why would they want that? Why? Well, because he's a global elitist. He is a plant. They have successfully planted him into our politics, all by the knowledge and will and want of Justin Trudeau for their bigger agenda.
I know I'm not the usual suspect when it comes to politics. But this is no time for politics as usual. No, it's not the time for lifelong politicians such as Pierre Poilievre. Politicians with bad ideas, naive and dangerous ideas. And I think the worst, his worst, is that Canada is broken. Canada's broken was one of Pierre Poilievre's many 3-word slogans. And it couldn't be more dangerous.
The career politician rhetoric actually just needs to stop, because if you do any research into Mark Carney, Christina Gould, Chrystia Freeland, Melanie Joly, who else is there? Dominic LeBlanc. If you do any research at all into any of those people, they are all career politicians. Even worse, unlike Poilievre, they also come from families of career politicians. Their parents were once MPs, or their grandparents were once very, very embroiled inside of the Canadian political situation. So I just think it's so outrageous. And again, preying on stupid people to say the term career politician as though that is a bad thing. Mr. Carney, you are a career politician. Sure, you may have not been involved directly in Parliament. However, you have been involved behind the scenes your entire career. You've been involved with the elitists, the banks, the everything, all of these things that make up the political landscape. You have been involved in every single one of them. So it is so disgusting and disingenuous for him to position himself the way that he is. And on top of this entire speech of his sounding, very dictatorial, very communist, very scary, the way that he speaks, the things that he says, the way that he's trying to change the narrative, he also did something else that was incredibly dictatorial. This came out that, there were journalists at his event and he had them all removed. What a weird thing to do for somebody who allegedly wants to become the next prime minister, wants to unite Canada. You're already off to a very authoritarian start, my guy. So again, good luck.
Yeah. Whoever's booked this has told us that they're actually an authority figure, just people that I think don't like us. So.
Okay, well, you are trespassing, so you need to
okay.
leave the property.
Okay.
You're free to film from there, but...
Sure, yeah. Well, thanks for being so professional about this. It's strange treatment from someone who wants to be the prime minister of this country.
And speaking of elitist lizard people, here's a weird offering to the deal with the devil. Chrystia Freeland even made Mark Carney her son's godfather. What a bizarre thing to do, as usually that is something that is saved for a family member, like an aunt or uncle, not some random rich guy that you met while you were involved in the world of politics. What a weird situation that is. And Chrystia Freeland has also formally announced that she is in fact running to be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. She said that her official launch will take place on Sunday, but she said some other things here that were very, very interesting. And according to this CTV News article, a source close to Freeland told them earlier this week that the former senior cabinet minister will make scrapping the consumer carbon tax one of her campaign policy planks, which is pretty interesting, given how vehemently she defended it under Justin Trudeau for, so very many years.
Our government is absolutely confident that the price on pollution returns more money to the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians. It is, and that there's just kind of common sense to that.
Now, according to these sources, despite for 5 whole years, Chrystia Freeland, I guess allegedly lying about the benefits of the carbon tax and saying that her version of common sense was more accurate than the actual facts and common sense. Apparently now she is planning to replace it with a system that directly targets big corporations. However, here's the thing. As per usual, if you have a bigger tax burden on bigger corporations, what are you going to see? Investments pulling out of Canada, as we have, and you're also going to see the price of that being offset onto the consumer. So is that actually a better plan? Nope, no, it's not. And let's always keep in mind that Canada emits less than 1.5% of all global emissions, to the point where, as I frequently say, if Canada didn't even exist, nothing would change. Not a single dent would be made in global emissions. So Freeland's game plan here is to not remove the carbon tax at all. She just wants to move the carbon tax around so that it sounds like it's removing it, but it actually will not change anything whatsoever. It's not going to make life more affordable if you're not being charged directly, because I'm sure those big oil businesses are still going to be charged it, as will everything else. Literally nothing will change whatsoever. So either she lied to us for years on all of the benefits that this has, or she is now prioritizing how she looks politically over the truth. Either way, I think it's safe to say in Canada, we really need to get the demons out of our country. Like, seriously, be gone, demon. Be gone. I am exorcising you from my life. Get away from me. Stop doing things. Stop planning anything. You make everything worse. That's usually what happens when you sign a deal with the devil, isn't it? Things always seem, oh, it's so hunky-dory at first. And then time goes on and you realize, the flip side to that contract, that is always filled with a lot of tricks, as the devil does.
We can do a lot to make sure that ultimately at the grocery store, at the pump, when it comes to heating costs, we can try to make sure that things are not as costly. But if we have 25% tariffs against us, of course we will retaliate, and of course that will translate into a tax on Americans.
I say this with all due respect. Like, my dad's first language wasn't English, it was French. But seriously, Melanie Joly, if you're going to go on CNN, please at least be able to construct a concise, clear message. What did you even just say there?
Can you describe in any greater detail exactly how Canada would retaliate?
Listen, we still want to make sure that we get to a deal without any tariffs. We think we can get there. We have the USMCA, which was, according to President Trump himself, the best deal ever signed by the American administration. We believe it was a win-win. We believe that we're able to create jobs together. And we know that we have to continue to fight inflation. At the same time, we will continue to make sure that we fight back if there's a threat, and everything is on the table.
As Danielle Smith just said earlier this week, you should not be threatening things that you cannot accomplish. And everything on the table is certainly one of them. Now, that was beyond cringy to watch, just because it's like, dude, it's so weak. You literally went on CNN, probably on taxpayer dollars to fly out there, to do what? To say nothing. Like, come on, honestly.
For a threat to work, it's got to look credible. Does it look credible if Poilievre, Smith, and others are not on board with what all the premiers and the prime minister want to say?
It's a problem, and the obligation and the responsibility of the prime minister of this country, whether it's Justin Trudeau or Pierre Poilievre, the obligation of the prime minister of this country is to put Canada in the best possible position to move forward with regard to future negotiations over tariffs, over the future CUSMA agreement when that comes up in 2026. And what I don't understand about this whole process and the story as it's unfolded is, why would you have a first minister's meeting with the prime minister and all the premiers there at the table? And I know Danielle Smith zoomed in, but they're all there. Typically in these kinds of settings, a statement or a joint statement is agreed to well before the meeting is gavelled into order. Yeah. And you know what the statement is ahead of time. If the prime minister of this country knows that there's disunity around the statement, why do you have to have a statement that exposes Canada's divisions? When we negotiated the FTA back in 1988 and 89, and then there were divisions between the provinces and the federal government. That was true with NAFTA as well. It was true with the USMCA or CUSMA as well. There are always divisions within country. We're a confederation with different constituent parts that have different stresses and needs and demands. And that's fine and normal. It happens in the United States as well. The obligation of the Prime Minister who sits atop of these debates is to make sure that everybody is together and that Canada's bargaining and negotiating position is maintained whole and that we're seen to be united. Why would they go forward with a statement knowing that Alberta wasn't comfortable with it?
This is all Justin Trudeau. Why is the situation the way that it is right now? Well, I'll tell you, because it's a really easy answer. Failed leadership. When you have failed leadership, every single thing around you crumbles. We have seen that in the Middle East. We have seen that in North Korea. We have seen that everywhere. When you have a selfish leader who has failed, who has not prioritized anything in the best interest of the country, things fall apart very, very quickly. And in this moment as well, Justin Trudeau, what he should do is put on his big boy pants, if he even owns a pair, and stop shopping at Baby Gap. And if anything, either try to discuss this privately with Smith, which I highly doubt he's done, and try to figure something out. Try to appease her in some regard here, because Trudeau's government has done everything they possibly can to eviscerate the economy of Alberta, to crap all over Alberta for years. No wonder why she isn't keen to come for a favor now that you need her. No wonder why she's taking things into her own hands. And listen to this tantrum-throwing toddler who's not getting his way. This clip coming up honestly makes me feel sick to my stomach. I can't even fathom what it must be like to be anywhere close to this guy. Bad vibes.
Certainly, I don't blame Danielle Smith for speaking up for her industry. That's part of her job. But every single premier other than Danielle Smith then chose to put Canada first and say, but we're all part of Team Canada, because what happens to any part of us happens to all of us, and we will be there to respond strongly, to fight for Canada, and to do it in a united way that makes sure that it's fair across all industries, across all regions. That was what we came together yesterday to do. Put their country first, as every single premier except Danielle Smith did.
What did I say in yesterday's video? When you have a narcissist in your life, if you coddle them and you stroke their ego, they will treat you like $1 million. But the second you ever tell them no, you ever say something maybe isn't a good idea, they will drag you through the mud. And honestly, this is really stupid of Trudeau to do right now. And why is he doing this? He isn't doing this to Trump. No. He knows that Trump and his team will likely see this. He knows that this will continue to divide Canadians. He's doing this to slander Danielle Smith and to turn the country against her as some sort of traitor. Danielle Smith did respond to this, saying, how about this for building a Team Canada approach? 1, stop threatening the livelihoods of tens of thousands of Albertans and Canadians via an energy export tax or ban. 2, immediately start construction on the Northern Gateway and Energy East pipelines to diversify our customer base to Europe, Asia, and our own country. 3, tell Germany, Japan, and the rest of the world that there is, in fact, a business case for Canadian oil and gas to be sold to them. 4, repeal the unconstitutional and job-killing production cap electricity regulations and C-69. 5, treat with respect and as an equal partner the Alberta taxpayers that have been transferring hundreds of billions to Quebec, the Maritimes, and even Ontario for decades. Let's start there on building our Team Canada approach, shall we? I love this era of Danielle Smith where she has actually had enough.
But when push comes to shove, every single one of them are Canadians first. And yes, they're going to look out for their communities, but they also know that looking out for all of us is what everyone in their communities expect us to do.
I think the part that Justin Trudeau is intentionally omitting and trying to manipulate the narrative to turn people against Alberta and Danielle Smith yet again, because he preys on stupidity and weakness and hopes that they won't dig into it, is the simple fact that Alberta's oil to the United States generates $13.3 billion every single month for the country of Canada. And so by rejecting a potential tariff, by rejecting that revenue to make Justin Trudeau look mighty powerful, now that he's been exposed by Donald Trump and Pierre Poilievre and Danielle Smith. She is, in fact, fighting for Canada. So I do want to talk about this just a little bit more, but I'm going to save that for tomorrow's video. I'm going to upload tomorrow morning, actually, where I'm going to really break all of this down with some absolutely awesome insight that you probably haven't seen before. So keep an eye out for that when you wake up in the morning. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. If you have any extra insight on this whole situation as well, be sure to comment it down below. I absolutely love learning from you and hearing your perspective on the goings-on of this country. It's really just never a dull moment. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and I will talk to you very, very soon.